Check, check. Chickadee check. 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 Hello and welcome. Today's video is going to be a little bit more talking and explanation than actually working on the car. So I've had a lot of requests from people, and I see it at least once every week or two. There's somebody posting about how to do this, and there's a few people that have touched on it, on YouTube that I've seen. There could be some that I haven't seen, but from what I've seen. So this is how to delete your subframe spacers from your Forester. So I have a cheat sheet because my words aren't so good. And I will be including my cheat sheet in the description. So pretty much on a 1997 to 2007 Subaru Forester, they used a small spacer for the front subframe. For sure, 100% the front subframe has it. On my car, the rear subframe didn't have it. I think it's a different subframe. But there was no spacers in the back of my car. But I know some other Foresters do have a small, like, aluminum spacer in the back. Anyway, so what the idea behind these spacers were, because of the larger ride height on Foresters, they actually spaced the engine and drivetrain lower to keep the drivetrain all symmetrical. So as soon as you take a Forester and lower it, even if you're only lowering it an inch, this subframe spacer delete will be beneficial for handling, um, and like body roll and a bunch of other things. So, here, I got this written down. Why would you do it? It fixes the geometry to make it handle better. Technically, you will be able to go lower as well because it brings that subframe 30 millimeters up higher. And then it'll make it feel a lot more like a Impreza or even Legacy of the same era. They don't have the spacers on it, so it just brings everything up and brings the geometry back into alignment, brings the axles more straight. Extreme cases like mine, the axles are obviously going to be tilted still, but yeah, for the most part, if you're just lowering it a couple inches, this will help everything kind of get realigned, and it'll make it handle so much better. Pretty much what you would need to do it. Mostly you can reuse the parts. And I'll show you when we get into mine, I'll show you what I did to reuse my parts. The things you will need for sure, 100%, you should definitely use a new transmission mount. I've seen people try and like space it. So they put like washers and longer bolts and stuff. Just get one from an Impreza. It's not hard. They're not expensive for a transmission mount. Go to the junkyard and grab one. They're cheap and plentiful. Even manual to automatic, just find the appropriate transmission mount. And then Driveshaft. So with mine, I didn't do the Driveshaft, and I got some pretty bad vibrations in the center because the engine was sitting up higher, and it would go to the carrier, and it would be like the Driveshaft was on a weird angle. So you want to make sure that you get an Impreza Driveshaft. For my STI swap, I have a 06 Impreza NA Impreza Driveshaft. They're like Lego. The STI for the 6-speed and the automatic are about the same length. Manual 5-speed is longer because the transmission's shorter. So you'll have to do a little bit of research to figure out exactly what one you need for your car specifically. But yeah, Impreza brings the carrier up, so it brings everything more in line. It's just way better. And then a pitch stop mount. If you don't already have an aftermarket one, pitch stop mount's a good idea. I think the Forester one is like 20 mil longer ish, but the Forester's 20 mil longer. The Impreza one's a little shorter. Some pitch stop mounts where it mounts to the transmission and to the car, they can vary as well depending on what transmission and what vehicle you have. But it's usually a good bet that you can just take an Impreza one and throw it in. Um, Other than that, you can reuse a lot of the stuff. So what I did on mine is I took the subframe, I put the car on jack stands like it is now. I put a jack up to the subframe, undid the bolts and lowered it down just enough to get the subframe spacers out. And then I took them and I put them underneath the subframe and then torqued it all back together, which I'll show you. I'll either add in a clip of me showing you or whatever. I'll figure it out. And then, yeah, you just really got to go nice and slow with it. You don't want to just drop the subframe completely out of the car because it's got a lot of stuff connected to it, like the engine. When you do this whole thing, like with my car, I had to readjust a couple things because I already had aftermarket stuff in the engine bay. The intercooler sat a little bit higher than it used to, so I couldn't retain the splitter, like the intercooler splitter that goes up into the hood and kind of scoops the air and shoots it down. So currently I have a Forester one in here, but it's mangled the rubber because it's squished down so far. I have a STI one I'm going to put in with the new hood. So yeah, you'll have to be aware. Like most of everything will just like you're pretty much picking the engine up 30 millimeters in the engine bay. So it's relatively an easy task, but since there's so much hearsay out there, I thought that this video would be good to let everybody know exactly what to do. So yeah, for the rear subframe, I'm not 100% because, like I said, mine, I think the subframe's just a little bit of a different shape because it's from Japan. I know that the SG Foresters, some of them have little aluminum pucks in between the subframe and the chassis. So it'll depend on your vehicle and your setup. I'm going to be doing a tubular subframe in mine eventually. So I don't need to worry too much about that. But when I do that, it just kind of like brings it up a little higher because I do scrape the rear exhaust and a bunch of stuff on my car. I'm also stupid low, so whatever. So yeah, it's relatively an easy to do thing. I've seen some people do write-ups where like you have to get everything Impreza bolts, you have to do this and that and this, and it's like $1,000. Doesn't cost that much. It's really quite simple. Yeah, I'll give you a close-up rundown. I think we're at that point now. Yeah, the main takeaway from this whole thing is just you're literally bringing the center of gravity up higher because the vehicle's lower. So I'll show you everything as I go and explain to you what I did. So as you can see, my engine kind of sits up in the engine bay quite a ways. Usually they sit down a little bit, about the same amount as the spacer. Yeah. It really brings everything up higher. It also makes changing your spark plugs a lot easier because instead of being absolutely buried, they're nice and accessible right there. Okay, future Chris here. I completely forgot to mention steering knuckle. So with the steering knuckle, it's right there. You need to undo the top bolt that goes to the steering wheel, the steering shaft. You undo the bolt, take it out, and then you can actually slide the steering knuckle up higher onto the shaft. Then you can put the bolt back in and tighten it up. It could be different on different vehicles, but that's what it was on mine, and it was relatively easy. Okay, this is my first time trying to film with my nice camera handheld, so forgive me if it's shaky. So, right here, that is my subframe spacer. I took it from in between the subframe and the frame rail, and I put it on the bottom. And that's it. Just literally took it from on top, took the bolts out so I could slide it out instead of trying to drop the subframe that far. And then just reused the same bolts and everything. And I've had it like this for years, 7 years, 8 years maybe. Yeah, so it's relatively easy. Just loosen everything, slowly let the subframe down a little bit, and then pop it out, pop the new one, or pop it back in, but underneath. As you can see here, I have the Impreza transmission crossmember. I've changed them out a couple times because I've had a bunch of different transmissions in this car. This one's for a 6-speed, so yeah, it brings everything up really nice. And then it's going to be real hard to see here, but the center carrier for this one is up a lot higher than the Forester one. It's, again, you can not swap it out if you want, but it will give you vibrations, especially when you make power. So make sure you use a Impreza Driveshaft. So it's kind of hard to film down here. I really wish I had a lift, but about that. Here we go. So as you can see, this is my subframe. There's no spacer in between the frame rail and the subframe itself. So nothing I could do back here. I think my car specifically has this, where my shadow is a little bit lower than a Impreza would be. So there's really not much more to it than what I have explained. I will put all of my notes and torque specs and everything that I've found online in the description below. And yeah, other than that, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll get you some more Forest content right away and more everything content. It is summer and it's time to have fun. So see you guys later. Peace. So, I already did the outro, but here I am again. I was editing the video and forgot a couple major things at the end of the video. I was trying to rush back in to make food because I was hungry. So, absolute must do after you do the subframe spacer removal. 100% get an alignment. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. If you can do your own alignment, sure. But I mean, I even still go and get an alignment when I can afford to, and like when the car's at a point where I'm not messing with the suspension anymore. But yeah, it's a really good idea. They're not that expensive, and your steering wheel will be straight and your car will drive straight. It's just good. A good thing to get into whenever you change anything on the suspension. Just get an alignment. Also, the steering wheel centering, it's not as important to me personally, but that would go in with the alignment. And then after like a week or two, make sure you go back in and check those bolts are on there. Because if one of the bolt heads comes off, you won't notice anything until you go over a big bump, and then your subframe will stay on the ground and the car will jump in the air. And that's not a great thing. So definitely go through afterwards, make sure everything's torqued and retorqued. And yeah, I mean, other than that, just keep having fun, slam your car, do whatever makes you happy. All right, guys. Peace.